So the soul family is basically a group of souls or beings that you incarnate with over and over and over. What happens is that we meet often the same people, and with some of these people or some of these souls we've been incarnating for eons. That's why we call them our soul family. So an example of a member of a soul family might be your twin flame. So your twin flame is a polar opposite of you. This is Mike Sigula from TrueTheory.com, and welcome to another episode of True Spirituality. So True Spirituality is my series where I talk about metaphysics, esoteric ideas and teachings, mysticism, shamanism, consciousness, spirituality, meditation, psychedelics, a little bit of everything. So if you like these types of topics, welcome. If you're new here, please subscribe. And have a look at my previous videos because this is episode 80 something already. So we have quite a lot of content. And today we will talk about what is the difference between our biological family and our soul family. Now, before we're gonna start, I just want to make a quick announcement. So I'm offering one-to-one coaching in things like personal development, spiritual development. So if you are someone who has some kind of challenges related to spirituality or your personal development issues, you are ending up in the same negative scenarios, for example, or any other types of challenges, and you need someone to help you with guidance, mentoring, and coaching, I offer one-to-one coaching. So have a look at truetheory.com/coaching. Check out different options there and get in touch. I normally offer first quicker consultation free of charge, so nothing to lose. Have a look at truetheory.com/coaching and send me a message and maybe we can work together. Now let's talk about the topic. So we are all familiar with our biological blood family, right? You have your parents and you inherited genes from your parents, for example, right? Which define some of your characteristics. Then you might have siblings, etc. We all understand this concept of what is our blood-related family or biological family. But we also have a soul family, and sometimes these are different. So sometimes members of your soul family are not part of your family, your biological family. Sometimes they are also part of your biological family. You also have a soul DNA. So traits that you inherit from your parents through genes, for example, are only part of the story when it gets to your characteristics. Because the third aspect is something that we call soul DNA. I'll be explaining these concepts now. Okay, so let's start with what is the soul family. So, because we incarnate over and over and over, you change your bodies. Sometimes you change densities or dimensions, planets, things like that, depends on your evolution. But what happens is that we meet often the same people, and with some of these people or some of these souls we've been incarnating for eons. That's why we call them our soul family. So an example of a member of a soul family might be your twin flame. So your twin flame is a polar opposite of you. You very often, if you meet and you incarnate together, you're gonna become a couple, for example. And a twin flame is basically, there is this theory that at the beginning of your evolution as a soul, you have your polar opposite, and and you incarnate over and over and over together. And very often you also have a third person. So you have twin flames and then there is a third person. And you also might incarnate together. Sometimes the relationship might be that this person is some kind of help to you, some kind of assistant. In the physical life here, this third person might appear as a family member, might appear as a best friend, something like that, right? So the soul family is basically a group of souls or beings that you incarnate with over and over and over. And, I've been doing a lot of work with trying to understand my past lives. And what I've learned is that many people from the people that I know here, I had relationships with them in the past. And very often with the people that I have the strongest connection with, I had the most incarnations with. So the way I was exploring my past lives, mostly through psychedelics, so they would work as an amplifier, and I would jump into the level of the higher self and then look into my past lives. So I could jump into bodies in some of my previous incarnations and see from the perspective of that body, for example. Sometimes through past life regression, sometimes through, working with some psychics who would do remote viewing, things like that. But we could build the picture here. So for example, my twin flame, we are not together, but we've been together a couple of times already in this lifetime. She remembers a lot of our past lives because she's psychic. But when I was checking our relationships, I would see ourselves in different bodies sometimes in previous incarnations. One time I asked about how many times we incarnated together, and the answer came thousands. And when she was checking, she also got these types of answers. So very often, you meet someone and it just clicks, right? You feel like you've known each other for eons. You feel the connection. It's very often that you know this person for very, very long time. Another thing about the soul family is that we change roles sometimes. So in one lifetime, you might be a couple. In the other lifetime, you might be siblings, etc., right? Sometimes we have some similar characteristics in our relationship. For example, in one session, I was shown a lifetime with a friend of mine, Gavin Nascimento, who is an activist from South Africa. And we just started chatting more than 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that, online. But we became friends online, and I met him only physically like twice. But we've been good friends for around 12 years now. And I always had this connection, like my brother or someone who has a lot of similar traits about like being this truth warrior, being very serious about activism and, streetwise and things like that, which is something I've been going through a lot myself. And when I was being shown our lifetime together, we were soldiers somewhere. I'm not sure. It looked like World War II because I could recognize some airplanes there. But this is exactly how I would feel about him now. That we are like these kind of truth warrior soldiers, let's say. Things like that. So it's interesting that that was shown to me. Now, sometimes your biological family might be also your soul family. For example, my dad, I was shown that he was my father previously as well. Outside of Earth, actually, not on Earth. Very often you might have the same parent or parents because this relationship works well, for example, for you. So you need specific genes, you need specific characteristics from your parents. You come here with a soul plan, and soul plan is something that you design a lot of aspects of your life. So what comes into the soul plan? You want to experience certain things, you want to accomplish some goals, you want to live in a specific way, and for that you need a team of people, right? So your soul group, and you have contracts with your soul group, meaning that sometimes there is a specific thing between you that needs to happen in maybe some period of time in your life, right? Or maybe there has to be some assistance between both of you. So let's say, I don't know, like someone like me and my sister, I've been helping her a lot with maybe education, helping her with studies. She had a lot of problems with studying, things like that. And I was always focused on this aspect, but she was more focused on financial aspects. And when I had some financial difficulties, she would assist me as well. So here you have some kind of help, mutual help, right? Let's take an example of my parents. So my dad has very specific traits and characteristics. He's very, very dominant alpha male, like top level. Also, he's not afraid of taking risks. Very much focused on gaining knowledge, but not through formal education, but more through just being a streetwise, reading books, things like that, right? You know, high ego, proving to the rest that he is the best in what he does, things like that, right? Now, some of these traits I inherited, and they actually helped me with my work here. Obviously, we're talking about this alpha male characteristics I just described. They help me so I can push myself, right? So I can accomplish high goals, for example. Same way, like he never valued formal education, but despite that, he read thousands of books, etc., and he's very intelligent, wise. Same way, I started doing similar things. You know, I left the university twice. I didn't like it, but I spent, 2 decades in learning from every other source possible, learning from my own ways. So kind of a lot of similar aspects. He's very good in hustling and, solving problems using creative ways. And this is kind of what I've been doing. He's also a risk taker. Some of these things that I have as well. So most likely I needed these characteristics to be able to do my soul plan and what I came here to do. Now, on the other hand, my mom, she is very kind and loving and has a good heart, and she's an empath and things like that. So some of these characteristics I inherited, which are also part of my work here, right? What I'm doing, I'm teaching about some positive things very often, things like that. I'm trying to care about the world, humanity, things like that, right? So this is an example how we choose parents to gain specific characteristics through genes so we can do our work here in our soul plan. Now, I said there is a third element, which is your soul DNA. So soul DNA is basically what you've been doing so far in different incarnations and as a spirit. Because very often what you are good at, for example, now, if you have some kind of talent, gift, predisposition, interest, this is related to your soul DNA. So these things build up over incarnations, right? For example, I had this deep interest in esoteric concepts, philosophy, things like that, right? And I understood a lot of these concepts without even reading anything about them when I was younger. And I thought this was always surprising because I thought everyone else seems to understand these things, but then I learned that other people have different interests and they don't see the same things the same way as I do. And when I started looking into my past lives, turned out that, this kind of path of being a thinker, philosopher, or some kind of spiritual teacher is not the first time I'm doing it. I've been doing these types of things many times. So this is why these things came to me. Another example, I got myself into martial arts as a teenager, and I became like vice champion of Poland within 3 years and things like that. So I seem to have some kind of talent towards it. Turned out that I had these lifetimes when I was a warrior and taking parts in battles and things like that. So again, these interests and skills did not come from nowhere. They came because I was doing these things many times before. So they came easier to me, right? So very often what happens is that even the way your face looks like in different incarnations is actually similar, because this is part of your soul DNA. When I would jump into different bodies, I had similar body type, long arms, long legs, things like that. So the way you look, the way you have your talents, your gifts, your interests, a lot of these things are related to a soul DNA. So it's a combination of genes from your parents and the soul DNA. And these three elements make you who you are. Very often what happens is that you resonate with someone, like a friend or maybe girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and sometimes you have better connection with someone like that than you have with your own biological family. Or you might have a better connection with like your cousin than you have with your siblings or whatever. This is very often because this is part of your soul group, this person is a part of your soul group, and your biological family might not be. You might have had some contract with your biological family just to get you in here using some kind of biological characteristics and genes and things like that. I made this video in the past about David Wilcock, who apparently is a reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, and you can see actually similarities in their soul group, how these people look very much alike. Have a look at this video. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. If the video makes sense, please give it a like. Please share it with other people so more people can discover it. I appreciate it a lot when you do it. This helps a lot, so thank you. And always happy to read your comments. What do you think about these concepts? Follow me on Instagram. It's Mike Segula on Instagram. And thanks for watching another episode of True Spirituality. Until next time.